I think I've just always kind of been moving. Like I was into boogie boarding and skim boarding at the beach here in Florida. There wasn't much of a surf culture down here. It's not great waves. My favorite TV show was Rocket Power. So that beep, to you, to most people, that beep is just a beep. But to me, to people who ride these things, it's like oxygen. Yeah, when I got to college, I then got into longboarding, like I guess like most guys who go to college. And in college, if you were friends with me, you probably remember like riding next to me, or I'm riding, you're walking, and we're going very slow, and then like inevitably I would hit a bump, and then my board would go flying backwards, I would go flying forwards, you would just be left standing there uncomfortably, kind of smiling, hoping nobody looked at you or me. Not exactly Mr. Cool, but I just always had to have it, like always riding. But now electric unicycles have taken over my life. I'm pretty much riding every day. But in this video, I'd like to tell you a little bit about like why I think the Gotway Nikola is the most balanced, like best unicycle, at least for me. So I'm gonna take you to the beach, or I'm taking myself. We're gonna go to the beach, and I'm gonna tell you more about this and ride around in some of the spots that I used to ride around at. And don't worry, we won't actually go into the beach. It's not allowed yet. Yeah, let's do it.
Coming alive. Now is the time. Don't try to hide, 'cause I'm gonna harm you like an animal.
Alright, we made it to the beach. We made it to the beach. We are here in Fort Lauderdale Beach. One of the beaches I went to quite a lot as a kid. It's beautiful back there. I'm sure you'll see more beautiful B-roll of it. By the way, my wheel shell has seen better days. I recently taught my wife how to ride, and I padded up my Nikola to no end, but despite that, she still kind of gave it a lot of battle scars on the shell. Which brings me to the first thing. This shell is amazing. It'll hold up under a massive crash, but the downside of that is it scratches kind of easily and they're very apparent. There are ways to buff it out. It's kind of complicated, and to be honest, it's like, forget about it. So aside from the shell being well built, the biggest upside to the way the shell is designed compared to other Gotway wheels are these little gray strips here. So these gray strips are hiding the screws to this wheel, and they're not just screws like other Gotway stuff in the past. They are actually like hex screws. So you use an Allen wrench to get them out. That is a huge upgrade. They're like really good quality from what I can tell. So it's very easy to get into, and I really love that about this wheel. Let's ride some more on the beach, and I'll tell you more about the other awesome stuff that comes along with owning a Nikola. Go check out these birds. So for my ever-increasing need to always be moving, clearly I made my way from skating to electric unicycles. But you know, I didn't start off on the Nikola. I started off with the smaller, slower electric unicycles, and eventually I worked my way up to what I have now. But the question is, how did I get here? This is half an hour of ride time so far.
Day one.
That's embarrassing and hard to watch. It's like, who is that guy? And I'm pretty sure I was hurting my wrist that day too. And probably I was exaggerating on how long that was. Not 30 minutes, probably more like a few hours into the day. But yeah, that was my first electric unicycle, the Kingsong 14S. I'm curious, what was your first electric unicycle? Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know, what was your first electric unicycle? And is it still rideable? Did you beat yours up to no end? Can you still ride it? Mine was okay. I started to beat up more as I went along, and I went up the path of bigger and bigger wheels. But I've purchased all of my wheels from ewheels.com. So if you're looking to buy your first wheel or upgrade maybe, head over to ewheels.com, find Jason, he'll take care of you. As you know, they offer the 1-year warranty, fantastic after-sales service. If you have any problems, Jason will be right away the first one to take care of you. Their prices are legit too, and you know, Jason does a lot for the community. There's a lot of things that are unseen from him. So he's a real rider. He's in it with the rest of us. So he's making sure that we're all taken care of. It's not just selling us wheels. Like, he's a real big part of the community. So if I can just brag for a second, definitely go to ewheels.com if you're thinking about buying an electric unicycle. Anyways, we have a lot to get into in this video. It's kind of exhaustive, but as usual, I try to make it entertaining for you. So let's get back to it.
When I see you, I see blood in the water. Ooh, run deep, it runs deep. Blood in the water. Ooh, I see blood in the water. Ooh, drive me, you see blood in the water.
Fun fact, the Nikola is a great wheel to mount a GoPro right here in the front, and you get some dope low angle shots when you're shooting video this way. One of my favorite ways to capture video when we're riding at night in the city. 3M, stick it right there, a little low. So you gotta almost cover the button here a little bit. It's like a little protruding. That way your handle can come up.
The handle on the Nikola, as you can see, it's inset. And to me, this is the entire reason for this design structure. It's sturdy, but I have to warn you, the biggest downfall about this handle is if you fall, the first thing that's gonna happen is this handle is gonna get wrecked. This is my second handle. Basically, if you get a Velcro strap and you wrap it through here as tight as you can, this is gonna be your best bet to keep this from getting crazy mangled when you fall or wreck or whatever. Just drop your wheel. One of the greatest things about this wheel is it actually has a lip sensor, one that functions, one that is nice, one that I'm not really worried about breaking.
So one of the other benefits of this wheel are the pedals. They're nice and large. They'll fit your whole foot on there, but they're so comfortable, and I think the type of pedal you're riding on will have a really big impact on how comfortable your ride is, especially for long distance. One of the other things about this wheel which is interesting is it ships with the Gotway pads, which are really nice and soft and foamy, but since this wheel is so wide, I found them to be incredibly difficult to use and just really uncomfortable. It felt like it was pushing my feet off the side of the pedals. When I went online and I looked around for other options, I found on Amazon some, I guess they're like friction pads for the side of like a motorcycle gas tank. And I found some that are like maybe like $9. I got a link down in the description below. And those have been great because I felt like on this wheel I don't need pads as much because it hugs the side of my leg really well. But what I do need is friction, so when I need to stop quick, I can grip this thing and I don't slip off because it is a very slippery shell. So we're gonna come over here for a second and get off that road. Oh my gosh, look at these houses. Holy crap. Dream. Wish I could live in one of these. Then there's this little one. And then this seems to be some prime real estate. Anyways, if you live on the intercoastal over here, you have these like amazingly opulent houses right there on the water. And like yachts and stuff. If you guys ever watch the show Ballers on HBO, it's like set in Miami, but same thing. It's this kind of insane opulence. These amazing amounts of wealth, which I have to assume only comes from drugs. But anyways, we didn't come out here to talk about drug lords and opulent houses, although perk of living near or in Fort Lauderdale and by the beach. I wanted to tell you a little bit more about all the ins and outs of this wheel and all the idiosyncrasies that can really make it a fantastic experience or a really crappy one. It all kind of depends, and I think this is a little bit of info that you should know if you're thinking about potentially buying this wheel. So for the Gotway Nikola 100v, which is the wheel I have here, one that I ride every day, it took me a while to figure out the correct PSI that felt right for me. But for this wheel, when I first got it, similar to the 16X, I had to drop it down to like 30 PSI. And I felt that eventually that was getting a little sluggish for me. I felt like I had to try too hard to get going. So I tried 40 again, and it was still felt like a beach ball. And then I just worked my way down. It's a round number, but I hit 35 PSI is like the perfect PSI for me, to where it's got enough surface area and enough bounce to it, and it's not too beach ball feel. So if you're riding this and you weigh around the same as me, I think 35 PSI is like an ideal, it's the ideal PSI for this wheel, for sure. It must be weird. I bet you people who live here know that people drive through their neighborhood just to like gawk. That must be a thing. Oh my gosh, it's like a movie set. So the other issue, which I think you need to know about with the Gotway Nikola, is because of its bulky, sort of boaty size, it is very prone to speed wobbles. And you might think, well then fine, I'm not getting that wheel. I do think the pros outweigh the cons, and especially because you can do some things to sort of mitigate that and make the riding experience all that more fun, and not have to worry about the speed wobbles all that much. So in order to ride on this thing, my stance is a little offset. So typically I tell people, new riders and riders alike, that you're going to want to ride with just the balls of your toes at the edge of the pedal and your toes hanging off, right? Well, with this wheel, because of the speed wobbles, you kind of want to ride offset. I've always kind of ridden offset with my stance anyways, but with this wheel, my left foot is pretty far back. I think my stance is a little exaggerated, but as you can see here, the front of my toe is touching the front of the pedal. This is essentially how I ride, to where like my heel is hanging off the back, and with this my toe is off the front. So let me try to get a better shot for you. So having that offset stance is really going to help you when you have to do some kind of hard braking, because that's when you're going to get these speed wobbles, I think. And there's a little bit of a trick to stopping so that you can stop effectively and safely and feel like you have a lot of control, because this is a very powerful wheel and a very heavy wheel. So the trick when you're stopping on this is to basically grip with your legs here, your calves I guess, and then because you have that offset stance, when you crank hard and lean back, you lean like you're about to sit into a chair, and by gripping and have that offset stance, you essentially turn a little bit as you're stopping, and you can augment that too and actually turn your wheel like you're almost doing like a ski stop or a ice skating stop. That's going to be the safest way for you to stop on this thing. Basically when I'm stopping, I'm squeezing tight, gripping, and leaning back like I'm about to sit into a chair. This is very useful on this wheel. And because this foot is offset backwards, it pulls the wheel a little bit this way, and that's what's going to give you that safe stop. I think the rich people saw me recording in front of their house and they weren't a fan, so we're going to go over to the next wealthy neighborhood and talk some more about why it sounds like I'm selling something. I mean, I kind of am.
We're going to talk about why this product is so awesome.
So let's go over to the next neighborhood. Let's see if we can get a nice view of the intercoastal here. This is kind of sketchy. Whoa. Nice paddleboarding. That's gonna be super chill. Okay. Whoa. Alright, so now that we're in this like illegal construction zone, man, it is hot in Florida. I think we could talk about, there we go, now we can see everything. I wanted to talk, what's that smell? That's a smell I'm familiar with from my childhood. So I want to talk about the modes that you can ride on a Gotway Nikola, or any Gotway really, which is another thing that's important with this Nikola. Is if you ride it in hard mode, you can bet you're gonna have some kind of brake wobbles and utterly eat it. I think the soft mode is the way to go for keeping yourself safe, and it's a really nice ride too. Like, it is nice to be in soft mode on the wheel and sort of lean in as you go. I swear by it. I think it's like the only way to ride. It makes you also feel like you're moving and jiving, like you're skiing or something, you know? It's like I'm leaning into the turn and then I'm leaning back to the brake. Like, I don't know, it just kind of flows. It makes the experience feel a little bit more like a flowing, floating type. So a lot of people have asked me why I sold my King Song 16X and other King Song wheels to go with the Gotway Nikola. And it's kind of like a simple answer. For years now I've been riding in New York City, and when you ride in New York, there is, you know, a big known thing, which is riding in the bike lane can be more treacherous than riding in the street with traffic. Now, a lot of people on the internet have a real problem with this, but in fact it is safer for us because of the nature of the way our city functions and the way the traffic moves. So for me, needing that extra speed was a huge thing. So now that I have the Nikola, I can reach top speeds of 41, 42 miles per hour personally. I'm sure other guys have gone faster, but it's nice to have that ceiling. So although I love other wheels I've owned in the past, like my King Song wheels were some of my favorite wheels, I think the extra power and speed was the sole factor that made me make the upgrade to a 100 volt Gotway wheel. So if you find yourself in that position like me, where you're nailing the tilt back a lot and you just wish you just had a little bit more ceiling to not worry about hitting the beeps, I think 100 volt is the way to go. An 84 volt wheel is still going to give you a little bit better, and if it's Gotway you can turn off the tilt back, but the 100 volt just gives you that extra cushion to never ever have to worry. So at the end of the day, as a city street rider and an adrenaline junkie, the Gotway Nikola 100v is the most well-rounded wheel for me. It's got everything. The 16-inch tire for maneuverability, the power, the amenities, and of course my favorite, the speed. But one day, I'm afraid the Gotway Nikola won't be fast enough for me. But I'm okay waiting for that day at 40 miles per hour. See you guys later.
This is the good life.